Ever since William of Normandy boldly conquered England in 1066, the Norman kings of the realm had sought to solidify their power over all of Britain. They met a particularly brave and stubborn foe in the Welsh, who steadfastly refused to submit to any English monarch. Tapestries and medieval illuminations tell of the line of kings who for more than 200 years tried without success to bring Wales into the English nation. They tell many stories of pitched battles and fierce struggle. And they tell of the coming of Edward I, a king of power and vision. Edward saw that the key to victory in hostile Wales lay in English castles, manned by English troops and controlled by loyal barons. Which is why, on March the 27th, 1283, King Edward invested Kevin Lestrange as Lord of Aberwyvon in agriculturally rich but rebellious northwest Wales. The king's first charge to Lord Kevin: build a castle there, the finest that modern engineering could produce.
We sailed to the mouth of the River Wyvern. I met there with Master James of Babington, the famous engineer who was already at work on other castles for the king in Wales and Scotland. I hope he proves worth his fee of 3 shillings a day, an unprecedented sum.
I trust you had a pleasant journey, Lord Kevin.
Is the journey from London ever a pleasant one?
Hardly, I dare say. Shall we begin, my lord?
It is critical that we be able to command all the surrounding land and control traffic and commerce through the area.
After surveying the entire area, my lord, I've decided that the outcrop of rock extending into the water provides the best natural defense. I'm sure a military strategist of your skill will agree.
Right, sir.
And, of course, the river provides an obvious escape route, should one ever prove necessary.
Let us hope to God it does not.
At the foot of the outcrop over there, we will lay out the town.
And that will provide the first ring of the castle's defense? I am very pleased, Master James.
Thank you, my lord.
His Majesty has impressed upon me the urgency of this project. After all, we are in hostile territory.
Carpenters are already building workshops and barracks. And I must say, my lord, the protection of your soldiers provides great comfort indeed.
A necessary precaution. We know the Welsh are watching us.
Satisfied with the progress, Kevin returned home and reported to his king.
Since your last visit, I have laid out the boundaries of the town, which the diggers are trenching so we may build a wall.
Master James, what sufficed in King Henry's time...
With due respect, my lord, I have traveled throughout Europe and the Holy Land, studying the great military architecture. Your castle will be the strongest yet seen in the kingdom.
I'm glad to hear it.
It is laid out in defensive rings. The outer curtain wall will measure 300 feet on each of its sides, and will be defended by towers and gatehouses. If by any chance, an extremely unlikely one, the attackers succeed in penetrating this area, they will be thwarted by the inner curtain wall, 12 feet thick and 35 feet high, with 50-foot high towers. An intruder would virtually have to fly to get in.
That should hold against Prince David and his Welsh rebels.
In the center of the inner ward, we have the living quarters for yourself and Lady Catherine, your children and servants.
My wife is a particular sort of woman. She will not relish living in this godforsaken outpost. See that you make her quarters as pleasing as possible.
You may have my assurance of that, my lord. Over here will be the barracks for the soldiers, here the great hall and kitchen and storerooms, and here in the safest part of the castle will be the well.
The castle is only as safe as its water supply.
And the town, it will be a simple grid of streets and blocks to be further divided into lots.
Very good. But the town defenses?
The 3 entrances in the town wall will be fortified with double-towered gatehouses, which would prove quite effective.
Most impressive. But how fast can the project be built?
The stone is being quarried and loaded on ships. some of which have already set sail. But when the stone arrives, to maintain the pace of construction His Majesty demands, I simply must have more workers.
And so you shall, Master James.
Lord Kevin sent constables to several English cities to find the multitude of workers Master James required. Over 500 diggers were forced to march all the way from Lincolnshire. Some local officials grumbled, since they had building projects of their own to complete. But Lord Kevin's representatives spoke in the name of King Edward himself. One who was pleased to come was the blacksmith, Andrew, from the town of Chester.
There are already many skilled smiths in Chester, so the call for work in Aberwyvern struck me as a fine opportunity. And with Lord Kevin's terms, I become a master straight away without paying any guild fee. It's a chance to establish myself in the new town, build a house, and start a family.
My Lord Kevin, construction on Aberwyvern Castle is at its height. There are now 3,000 workers on the site, and we have finally secured sufficient master craftsmen to oversee them. In mid-July this year of our Lord 1284, we began the outer curtain and the town wall foundation. As I explained to you when we last met, the two stone faces are bound with mortar made of sand and lime. And as the wall grows, the space in between is filled with rubble. Materials are carried up the walls on scaffolding supported by put logs set in holes in the walls themselves. We find this the most efficient means for construction. We use hoists and pulleys to lift lighter materials and tools. You understand, sir, that the windows near the bottom of the walls and towers must be small enough so that an enemy soldier cannot climb through. All the windows will be protected by iron grills and can be closed off by wooden shutters on the inside. In your living quarters, your gracious Lady Catherine will be pleased to note that each window will be fitted with glass. Of course, the tops of the walls will be crenelated with embrasures and merlons. Each merlon will be capped by 3 fearsome-looking finials. I have provided for arrow loops in the merlons for your archers. With a wedge-shaped recess cut out of the stone, the archer may aim anywhere across his field of vision without exposing himself to the attackers. One of the many refinements that adds up to the greatest castle I or any other Englishman has ever built.
When the weather turned cold, the partially completed walls were covered with straw and dung to keep the new mortar from freezing and cracking. And so protected, the castle sat through the winter.
The earliest English castles were motte and bailey fortifications. The motte was a high mound of earth on which stood a wooden tower. The open space at the base of the motte was a bailey, and around the top of the motte and the bailey was a high wooden fence called a palisade. During the early part of the 12th century, these palisaded earthworks were replaced by stone structures.
In the spring, the workers returned, and construction went along smoothly throughout the summer of 1285. By that fall, many of the towers and sections of the town wall had reached their full height. And in December, when the temperature dropped too low to work with wet mortar, all but a few hundred of the workers once again returned home to their families throughout England. The next year, Master James brought in 100 extra masons to speed up work on the inner curtain and its towers. As the castle drew nearer completion, timbers were brought from the forests of Dean. Lord Kevin brought his friend, Lord Raymond Le Bouvier, to meet Master James and inspect the progress. Also under obligation to King Edward, Lord Raymond was preparing his own castle to command the northernmost sea route to Wales.
There are 3 rooms in every tower. The lowest one, the basement level, is for storage. In the unlikely event the walls are breached during a siege, each tower may have to defend itself, and so must have its own supplies. The upper rooms will be used for living and working space.